What is up, Rad Potential YouTube, and welcome back to the Rad Potential YouTube channel. We are getting ready to stack this motor up. So this isn't the day of stacking, but this is days in advance where we're cleaning stuff. So housings looking freshly mint, irons looking freshly mint and cleaned. We got in there all nice and deep like. We got these babies stripped down to metal. Let's see, bare metal, no dirt and grime. She's all nice and clean. A little bit of some crusty rusty on there. Housings came out wonderful. Front iron over here chilling next to the dog. So since this is going back in a this black 79 that's mostly stock, just gonna do standard black and silver color scheme on this thing. Classic, easy peasy. From the factory they weren't actually painted, so they were just bare metal and then bare aluminum, but the black and silver just makes it look nice and classy. So I'm gonna set these up, wipe these babies down with some brake clean and get all the crap off of them and blow the dirt out of them again after I've already done it a couple times. Clean them all by hand and throw a fresh coat of paint down on these units so they look fresh for getting stacked up this week. So let's get after it. Alright guys, so quick coat of paint. This thing is looking awesome. I was unsure how that usually I go for like a wheel paint silver to paint the housings because it's like kind of dull and it looks like just basically like the aluminum, but like usually when you just clean up this old aluminum, it's like 40 years old, so it gets a little washy. Excuse me, and I really don't like that. So I tried this like metallic aluminum stuff now. You see, here's what I usually use. This is what I use this time. And I like it. It kind of still gives off that dull cast aluminum vibe. But dang, looks tight. So you're probably curious why I didn't tape off every single ever surface that's going to touch something. The oil filter housing, I'll clean that off and clean it out before I put an oil filter on it. And you could have been like, oh, I could put an old oil filter on it, but whatever. Each of the stationary gear surfaces, like the back, I've got to go through and clean every little tension bolt hole. So where a tension bolt seats, there's a O-ring that holds coolant in there. And I don't like to put those O-rings over paint. So I'm going to clean all those off. So I figure if I'm already there cleaning that, might as well clean the stationary gear surface. And for the front cover, I could probably go around and tape off the whole front iron where the front cover goes, but it's not too hard to just go ahead and clean that off. The water pump area sucks, so I'll just run over that with my little wire wheel and have it freaky fresh. So exhaust ports, no big deal, but the intake ports, since I already put the irons together to paint it, it's super easy just to tape those across, so that way I don't have to worry about cleaning those up, especially like after I get the motor together. So we'll let that cook in the sun. I'm going to go build a roof, and we will pick back up on this when I get the rest of the parts cleaned and kind of go through some stuff with you. So what's up guys, we're back in the shop working on this 12A, and I've got motor parts painted, which you saw. I've got to keep digging some parts out. Last night I spent a couple hours cleaning the rotors, so here's the fresh and clean rotors. There's some, like, you see a little pitting on here, but no major big deal. Next bit tonight, I got to clean up these stationary gears and the rest of the inside engine parts. So just kind of want to go over my process with you guys real quick. I really don't want to like bore you to death with with watching me scrub carbon off of these. Basically, I have that little Rubbermaid container over there, and I take some of this, just like regular old Purple Power, and just kind of try not to get it on it everywhere, but just get it on the main parts with these things down in there. Just have a little steel wire brush, and then use a, this is just a broken side seal. And basically you take your rotor and you lay it down, you use that brush to get these the oil control ring grooves clean. And then the most important thing, kind of, when you go to clean rotors, at least I think it's very important, is to make sure that you can slide the side seal through here without it catching on anything. So you'll get a lot of carbon buildup in these grooves, and if you have that, then your side seals, when you go to put them in, will get stuck. So you got to make sure these are nice and clean. So a little bit of Purple Power on there. Run this back and forth a bunch of times. Same thing with the corner seals. Just kind of use the side seal to scrape out all the gunk in there. Which, I mean, you really couldn't see it because I wasn't aiming it away, but scrape out all the gunk. And then I have some Apex seals here, just like take a 3mm Apex seal and make sure you can slide it through all the Apex seal grooves perfectly smooth and clean. Scrape the edges up. You know, you want to get them nice and shiny in there, so that way the Apex seal doesn't catch on anything. So I'll kind of do a little time lapse of me cleaning the rest of these parts, just because it'll be easier and I'll really be running through them. These just take a good chunk of time because they did not look like this when I started. And the other thing to add too that helps a little bit, once you get done getting all the grooves and brushing and stuff, if you just take like a Scotch-Brite pad and wet the Scotch-Brite pad with water, and then just go over it. Then when you're done, blow them off real good with your air compressor, or dry them off the best you can, and then spray them with some WD-40 just to help keep them from flash rusting. So let's get cracking. Alright, so arguably the hardest part of assembling a rotor is getting the oil control rings seated, which you just saw me struggle a little bit there. So I already have this rotor completely assembled, and like my definition of completely assembled is just everything but the Apex seals. So I can drop this in and then put the Apex seals in it, put the corners down, and the Apex seal springs and everything, and then keep on working. So you notice I kind of have each spot numbered, and basically how I do my numbers, when you take apart one of these engines, sometimes you'll reuse some of the seals and springs, and generally it's best to put them back in the exact spot you took them out of, as they've already been clearanced from Mazda if it's an original engine, or by the previous builder in theory. Obviously it is up to you to inspect everything before putting the engine back together. So if you have like an Apex seal spring that's bent or a side seal spring that's a little weak, then you should replace it. But so my thing is, on the gear side of the rotor is your balance letter. So there's your B for the balance of the rotor. I always start with wherever gear side, this letter, that's number 1, and then I just go counter or clockwise, 1, 2, 3, flip it over, same. So like 1 is this, the back side that's 4, 5, 6. So it's the same. That just keeps me sane, and make sure that you get like your corners in the right spot, or your Apex seals and all that stuff back in the right spot. So where that is super important is for Nick's build here, which you saw me tear this engine down. I'm not going to replace the hard seals in this engine. It only has maybe a year, if that, of runtime on it. So we're going to do the big ports, and we're going to do the stud kit, and then we're going to do the new rear iron. But we're going to reuse everything that is on the rotor, basically. Even the oil control ring seals, there's no issues with them, so there's no sense in even taking them off the rotor. The goal is just to take the rotor out, keep it together, and then put it back in. So that's kind of my wicked way here. I am going to go ahead and finish assembling this rotor, and then that is going to be it for this video. I'm going to stack it in another video and then install it in the other car. just because it helps me with getting some more stuff out there, as that does make for good videos for you guys. So basically, to kind of run you through everything, even though it's all time-lapse, so we've got pickup tube, rear stationary gear bolts, the rear keyway, your this is your oil pressure regulator, E-shaft all cleaned up, oil pan bolts, tension bolts. I stripped all the old O-rings off them already and cleaned them up. Dowel pins, front keyway, front stationary gear, distributor and O&P drive gear, Torrington bearings. This is your spacer for the crank, and then this is the in-play spacer, oil pump stuff, front counterweight, front cover seal or front cover bolts, front pulley, and the motor sitting over there. That's everything you need to build a rotary engine. So with that, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time. We'll be sticking this motor in the car. Peace.